Okay, so we shall begin. So we just learned this piece in the Mamar, and the Mamar explains the difference between Amalek and other nations. When we say Amalek in the other nations, we mean the klipa that's in Amalek and the klipa that's in other nations. The klipa in other nations means that there's a drive and there's a passion for things that are negative, but the objective is, the goal is pleasure. The objective is not anti-Hashem. The objective is pleasure. The reason why that person is so driven for these physical materialistic pleasures, because they have no feeling for godliness. And they're lacking the awareness, the consciousness, and definitely lacking the feeling and appreciation of the beauty and the depth and the greatness and the truth that's in godliness. So therefore, they're driven towards all the physical, materialistic, superficial pleasures in life. And that's why these nations can be transformed. On a personal level, it means these passions can be transformed. That once a person realizes that the true pleasure and the true value lies in something else, and they start becoming more aware of Hashem, and definitely if they become a little bit more sensitive to godliness, then it'll be possible to redirect all those passions from the negative place to a positive place. But Amolek is different. Amolek is driven by, what drives him is anti-godliness. Amalek is a force that's aggressive about fighting and not allowing Hashem and Hashem's name to be in this world. And that's why Amalek attacked Eden when they went out of Mitzrayim. Nobody bothered them. Nobody touched them. Nobody was even threatening them. The 7 nations felt threatened because the Jews were going in that direction to conquer the land. But Amalek, nobody was threatening them. Who bothered them? Why did they come? It was an unprovoked attack. And the answer is they could not tolerate that godliness became so big in the world and everybody was in awe, like the person with the hot bath. So therefore they did whatever they can to break the spell of that excitement and awe that people felt towards Hashem. And that's the clip of Amalek. So we explained last time that this is a certain Yetzer Hara within ourselves. Anytime a person fails one of these 2 things which you mentioned, one of them is suffix, thoughts of doubt, and the other one is kriras, coldness. Anything that comes to my mind, even if it makes sense, and it makes perfectly sense, but if the conclusion is, therefore, don't get so excited, or it cools down my excitement about something that has to do with Kedusha, then I know it's coming from Amalek. Because anything that's good and godly should generate excitement. And if it reduces excitement, even 1 iota, then we know it's Amalek. Good morning.
So when we say that like about just one pleasure, maybe it can be that like the clip of Amalek is receiving pleasure from godly things. Maybe I don't know.
From fighting godliness.
Okay.
But that's its pleasure. That's what it wants. It wants to fight godliness. Again, the point is we see with the other kinds of taivas that when the person becomes more aware of Hashem, he's ready to let go of those taivas. But Amalek, you can't say if he becomes aware of Hashem, he'll stop. He's very aware. In fact, that's what's driving him to fight and go against. There was a chassid in the previous generation. His name is Rabbi Masmid. He was probably one of the biggest Chassidim in that generation in terms of Avodah, serving Hashem. He was like a Beinoni. Unfortunately, he was killed by the Nazis. But he would say something that the Frierdiker Rebbe actually didn't like it, but this is what he would say. He would say that the only one who could be a real Amolek is a Lubavitcher Chassid. Why? What's Amalek? Amalek is somebody that knows who Hashem is and still goes against him. The only one who really knows who Hashem is somebody who learns Chassidus. Otherwise, you can't say he knows what Hashem is. He doesn't know much. All in good humor. Okay. Now the question is, so this Shabbos, tomorrow is Parsha Zochor. We're going to read the Parsha where it says, get rid of Amolek and destroy Amolek. So now the question is, so how do you destroy Amolek? So yesterday we gave one answer, and today we'll give a few other answers. Yesterday's answer was that, and I want to show it to you in the terms. I want to go through the sheet with the terms. If you look at the sheet in the front of the booklet, yes, it's not extra. It was actually prepared for you, this one. You can have it. Okay. Number 21 and number 22. This is the right in the beginning of the booklet. 21, no, sorry, number 22 and 23. Look at the first page, all the way in the beginning. That's the list of the topics and the terms that are related to Purim. Number 22 is birur. Birur means to refine. And number 23 is shvira, to break, to destroy. That's the difference between Amalek and the other nations. The other nations, you didn't get a booklet either? No?
Yesterday?
Oh, it's from a few days ago.
Oh.
You didn't get?
Thank you.
You're welcome. The other nations you go through a process of birur. Birur means to refine something, to clean it, to repair it, to correct it. They could be turned around. Amolek is shvira, means you have to just break it, destroy it. To give an example, if a vessel becomes impure, could you make it pure?
Depends on the.
Exactly. If it's a regular vessel, metal, you can put it into a mikveh and it becomes pure. If it's earthenware, you can't put it in any mikveh, you can't make it pure. The only way to make it pure is by breaking it. If you break it, it's no longer what it was. Now you can do something. Otherwise, the only way is breaking it. That's Amalek. And that's what we explained. Breaking it means ignoring completely. If a person finds that they have a passion for money, they can sit down and think, no, I can still have that passion for money, but it should be in a meaningful way. Use the money to help people, use the money for tzedakah, use the money to build and do good things. So I'm basically dealing with it and I'm redirecting that passion. And the same with other passions. Even a passion for power or leadership in a negative way, I can turn that around and use my passion for power and leadership in a positive way to bring positive things to people around the world and to lead people in a positive direction. But Amolek, which is doubt or this coldness, you can't turn that around. You can't do anything with it. You just have to destroy it. And destroy means ignore. When the thought comes to your mind, just ignore it completely. That's what we spoke about yesterday. Now there's another thing. And that is that the only one who has the power to fight Amalek really was Moshe Rabbeinu. So remember the story. Yeah.
Sorry. Can we make a campaign called Chill Out? Like, you've heard the term chill out, right? But I feel like when I hear it, it's like such a, like, it comes from a positive place. But then recently I've heard a lot from my father, like, I'm like, just chill out, and I'm hearing it again now. And I like like, do we need to ban those words from the community? Like, chill out, like, no.
It's like everything else, depends on what context you use it, you know.
Right, like, is there a positive context?
If someone says, be careful the way you drive because you might, God forbid, crash into somebody, and someone says, chill out, which means don't care, just drive whichever way you want. It's not a good way to use it. But if somebody's all intense about something and worried and anxiety and getting all worked up, and you say, chill out, that's a very good thing.
Right.
So it depends when you use it and how you use it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the one who fought Amalek in the times of in the desert was Moshe Rabbeinu. So again, there was a war. There were people fighting. The general of the war was Yoshua. But what really made the difference whether they would win or lose was Moshe Rabbeinu. He went up on the mountain. And if you remember the story, it says in Chumash, he lifted his hands and his son and his brother and his brother-in-law were holding his hands. So he kept them up because when his hands were up, they were winning. When his hands came down, they were losing. So basically, Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who was fighting this war. Why? Because Amalek is really, in a sense, the deepest kind of klipa that you could imagine. It's the essence of all klipa. Oh, so I really have to wait a second, make a short stop here. I wanted to explain something before we get there. And that is, look at the list, number 35. Reishis Goyim Amolek. Where do these words come from? It comes from the Chumash. And let me show it to you inside. It's on page... In the Pasha of Balak, it says that the Navi, that prophet, his name was Bilam, he looked into the future and he saw Amalek and he prophesied whatever he prophesied about Amalek. That's strange. Where is it? It should be here. It fell out, must have fallen out of the booklet. Now, that wasn't supposed to happen. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's strange. Okay, nothing we can do about it now. Yeah, I guess it goes from page 6 to page 12. So I guess there are pages missing. You also have pages missing? You have page 7, 8, 9, 10?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, so it's just missing. Some of you are missing, right?
I don't have it.
Okay, I know what happened because we took out those pages for that class when we had everybody together, and we're going to put back into the original, into the master copy. Okay, so could you give me your copy? You have all the numbers? I'll tell you which page it's on. For those of you who have it, please could look it up. It's on page 7. Page 7, thank you. Yeah, okay. So it's page 7. On top of the page where it's underlined, Reish is Goyim Amolek. What?
Do the Yiddish mazel from numbers and the Gaish mazel align? Like, are they the same mazel for each number?
You know? So they, the words are, the first of all the nations to attack you was Amalek, which means we're speaking now chronologically. The Jews went out of Mitzrayim. They just witnessed and experienced a tremendous salvation. And then, of course, in the future, we know so many nations attacked them, but the first one to attack was Amalek. And that's the mashal with that hot bath. So Chassidus says, there's another explanation to these words, a deeper explanation, right? That if all the nations of the world represent, those nations that attack the Eden, that oppose the Eden, represent different negative character traits, then what does it mean this is the first? It means not just chronologically the first, it means this is the source of all other negative character traits, Amalek. And that's why Amalek has to be wiped out completely. So what is Amalek? In fact, what leads Amalek, what drives Amalek to oppose godliness in such a severe way? And therefore he throws in doubt, and therefore he tries to cool us off, and he can't tolerate that Hashem's name is in the world. What is it that drives Amalek? So it's explained in Chassidus, the essence of the clip of Amalek is Yeshus, is the sense of wanting his own independent identity, independent of Hashem, the arrogance, the ego. Really, there is no perfect translation for the word Yeshus because it's a Hasidic terminology, but that is what leads to it. And basically, all negative character traits, the source of them are in Yeshus. That's where it all begins. In other words, what?
How do you spell Yeshua?
Yud Shin Vav Sof. In other words, the presence of Hashem and the acceptance of Hashem and Hashem's authority doesn't allow me to be who I am. I want to be independent of Hashem. I don't want anybody to perceive anyone as my boss, as my authority, as telling me what to do, even to recognize that he's the one who created me, so therefore I have to submit myself to him. I'm dependent on him. That Amalek can't tolerate. And therefore Amalek makes every effort to deny Hashem, and Hashem doesn't exist. What do I mean by all negative character traits come from Amalek, from Yeshus? So really, we can have a long list, but let me just go over briefly some of the negative character traits. One of the character traits and mitzvahs in the Torah, which is that one segment of Torah, which is all about interpersonal relationship, how we should relate to other people. It's all about caring for another person, not doing any damage to another person, not to damage them personally, not to damage their name, their reputation, not to damage their finances. And there's so many things about caring for another person, like visiting somebody that's sick, helping somebody that's poor, helping a kala make her wedding. There's a long, long list. There's so many mitzvahs and so many character traits that are included in this category. What's the root of all of them? The root of all of them is if a person is selfish or not. A selfish person has no time for other people, has no money for other people, doesn't want to go out of their way to help another person, doesn't even care about what happens to another person. A selfish person is a person that just obsessed and cares about themselves. Of course, there are degrees. There's some which are more and some which are less. Like everything else, it comes in three sizes: large, medium, and small. So there's large yesh, like the size of an elephant, and there's medium and there's small. But the principle is, the more I am self-centered and involved with self and focused on self, the less I care about other people, what I do to them, and what happens with them. And this is something which includes many, many mitzvahs. So where does selfishness come from? What's the source of selfishness? Why is a person selfish?
Because there is no identity other than Hashem.
That's why they're selfless.
No, but they have this humanistic need to prove that they do have a self because they have a body.
Okay, so this desire to prove that I have a self is the opposite of recognizing Hashem. Of course, it's because they know that they have to prove it, but they're trying to be independent of Hashem.
Right.
It's all about establishing my own independence. It's like children, in a certain way, whoever does a little bit of babysitting, one of the big things of children is, no, I want to do it myself. Can I put your coat on? No, they put it on upside down, inside out, but I got to do it myself. I want to eat myself. Everything spills, falls on the floor. They get smeared up from head to toe, but they got to do it themselves. Even things that they can't do themselves. Do you know how to do it? Yeah, of course I know how to do it. They don't know what they're talking about, but they know and they do. What is this desire? Because this is a child, is when it's all starting. You know, they don't hide it. They basically are saying clearly, I want my independence. at age 1.5, 2. And then it could grow, or we could discipline it and make sure it doesn't grow out of proportion. But that's what Yeshus is. The desire to establish my own independent identity, and therefore I can't recognize Hashem, and therefore it leads to all these negative things. Jealousy, it says in Pirkei Avos that jealousy is a very destructive character trait. People who are jealous people can't really have a happy life. Because no matter what they have and how good things are, they're always jealous of someone else. Where does jealousy come from? Where does competition come from? It comes from Yeshus. That a person who is obsessed with self wants to be on top, wants to be ahead, can't tolerate that someone has more than them, someone is greater than them, and these are the kind of things that cause a person to be jealous, which is a source of many other negative things.
How can we help someone who's jealous? Like if we love them and care about them, like is there a way to help them other than Simcha?
Well, like I said, they have to start recognizing that the brachas that they have, and to change the mindset of competition. And I need to be ahead, and I need to be on top. Otherwise, what's wrong? Jealousy is not always where somebody is poor and the other person's rich. There are people who have, but just because someone else has more than them, like I have a home, I have a car, I have a job, but this person has 2 homes, one here and one upstate. And he has 3 cars, one for him, one for his wife, and one for one of his kids. And this makes me jealous. So this idea that jealousy, which usually comes from, I can't tolerate that someone has something more than me and is better than me, is very destructive, but it comes from focusing on the wrong thing. So we have to change that mindset. But I'm saying that the core is Yeshus. And therefore I'm concerned about who's ahead. Otherwise, what's the difference who's ahead? As long as I have what I need, why do I care? Yeah.
So that wouldn't be necessarily someone who's Amalek, like someone. So when you're saying someone is like Amalek, they kind of know Hashem, and not necessarily.
They know Hashem, but they want to become independent of Hashem.
But then there's people who I guess don't know, that there's Hashem, but they have this practice.
Right, but part of not knowing Hashem or not wanting to know Hashem is that Yeshus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does it make sense? I once said this in class, that out of all the Torah and the mitzvahs, even though it sounds weird to say this, probably the most logical of all of them is to believe in Hashem. And yet so many brilliant, intelligent people don't believe in Hashem, or at least they think they don't believe in Hashem. And it's not because it makes sense, because it doesn't make any sense. There's no place else in the world where they would agree, especially if somebody who's in science, medicine, everything is explained. And here you see a world, and you see life, and you see beauty, and you see depth, and you see brilliance in one single cell of the human body, not in millions and billions, one single cell, one single piece of DNA, you see such brilliance. Forget about everything else in creation, and to say with simplicity, I don't believe that someone put it together. I believe it makes much more sense that it happened by itself. That's ridiculous. It's absurd. It doesn't make any sense. So why does it make sense to them? Because it's more convenient to make sense. Because if I accept Hashem, then that puts me in a spot where I have responsibility, and my life is restricted, and I have an authority, and the Yeshus doesn't allow that. So that's Amolek. So in other words, we have 3 things about Amolek. Number 1, doubt. Number 2, cools us off from our enthusiasm. And the 3rd thing is sort of the cause. What's the cause for this? Yeshus. What else could you think of negative character traits that it's based on Yeshus? You'll see, if you go through the list of almost all negative character traits, you'll see at the root of it, even Simcha, we're talking about Simcha now. It's the month of Adar, to be happy. The source of depression is also Yeshus. If a person was able to let go of themselves and just connect to something higher than themselves, they would be a happy person. But again, so much thought goes into where is myself and where am I in this. I think this must have come up before, but I remember once, in other words, just because there's something wrong, it doesn't mean the person becomes depressed. It's a reason to do something about it and try to look for ways of correcting the problem. But when a person gets depressed, it's usually because of yeshus, because they're obsessed with themselves, and that's what makes them feel this sense of depression, which means that they're drained of energy and they have no energy and they don't want to get up and do things. Remember, one said that the difference, it says in Tanya, the difference between depression and positive sadness is positive sadness works as a catalyst to get me to do things. Depression is just something which drains energy and puts me to sleep. And the reason is because the one who is depressed is focused on self, and the other one is focused on the subject matter, that there's a problem, and therefore we do everything to fix the problem.
That's positive?
What?
What was that?
I'm saying that if somebody recognizes that there's something wrong in my life, there's two ways to approach it. One is I'm so upset, it's so depressing, and therefore I just go to sleep and I cover myself with my covers and I just can't take it. There's another person that because of that, they're driven to do everything they can to correct whatever that problem is, which is a positive thing. One is full of energy and one is void of energy. It's lifeless. That's something which is never acceptable. But the difference is because this person is focusing on themselves, on their image, on that part of it. To give you an example, I was once speaking somewhere, and this woman in the crowd, these are people I don't know, who's in another state, and this woman in the crowd comes over to me and asks me what could she do about her two daughters. And she tells me that her two daughters were very good girls, they got involved with drugs, and now they're in such a bad place, and she just burst out crying. I had to wait at least 5 minutes, but while she was crying, what was she saying the whole time? These were her words, literally repeating over and over, I'm such a failure, I'm such a failure, I'm such a failure. So what I told her was, that's not supposed to be what's coming out of your mouth. It's not about you being a failure or being a success. It's about, there's a situation there, what can we do to help these girls get out of their situation, go through some sort of rehabilitation, and get on with their lives. The fact that you focus that I'm a failure, that's what cripples you, actually paralyzes you and doesn't let you do anything. And that's when it becomes negative and destructive and everything goes in the wrong direction. And therefore, when a person is thinking more positive, what can I do? How can I do? They're full of life, full of energy. And therefore, the depression is also because of the lack of bittul. It's because of the most humble people are the happiest people. This is the rule. The less you're focused on self, the happier you'll be. And the more you're focused on self, the more it leads to being depressed and being down. And of course, depression leads to all other negative things. So whichever way you turn it, whether it's between me and Hashem or me and other people, at the core of almost everything that goes wrong is yeshus. And that's what it means, Rashis Goyim Amolek. The first of all the other negative character traits, the source, the core, what leads to it is Amolek, which is the yeshus. But how does Amolek manifest? Mainly in these two things, in doubt and in making me cold. So now let's go back to what we began before. So how do I get rid of Amalek? So one of the things that it says in the Chumash is that I told you before that Moshe Rabbeinu was fighting this war. But there's another thing where it says in the list, it's number 27, B'char Lanu Anashim. In the booklet, it's page 11 and 12. No, it's not. So I guess we have different pages there. Sorry. Could you help me, Nati? Which page is it? B'char Lanu Anashim. That's from you. That's Parshas B'Shalach. Sorry to confuse you. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Yeshua, B'char, you don't have it? You want to give it to me? I'll find it. Sorry.
Hey, page
Got it? Page 8? Okay. Page 8. So the words are Bachar, Lanu, Anashim, choose for us people. What it should have said was Bachar Anashim, choose people. What does it mean, Bachar Lanu Anashim? Choose for us or to us. So the Alter Rebbe says Lanu means our people. People that, in other words, the people who are going to fight this war against Amalek were selected. They were handpicked by Yeshua. And who are they? These are people that were loyal to Moshe Rabbeinu, specifically connected to Moshe Rabbeinu. Because only Moshe Rabbeinu has the power to fight Amalek. So therefore, who are the people that can be in this war? Those that are connected to Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Why only Moshe Rabbeinu? And we see again in the time of Purim, Haman was Amalek. And by the way, all those Persians that were fighting with the Jews and were killed, they were all from the nation of Amalek. That's what it said. They were all part of Amalek. So why is it Moshe Rabbeinu or Mordechai who's equivalent to Moshe Rabbeinu? The answer is because Amalek is, that we said before, the core of Klippa, the essence of Klippa. In fact, Amalek's way of doing things is totally beyond logic. So look at the list in the beginning of the page where it says number 24. This expression, I think, comes from Gemara, chutzpah b'loi taga, which means Amalek has chutzpah beyond reason. For Amalek to attack the Jewish people then was the height of chutzpah, but yet it was totally illogical because they're going to get defeated, and that's what happened. Imagine such a powerful, mighty nation. They just defeated the mightiest nation on earth, which was Egypt. Like we said, they were the most powerful in sorcery, and they had the most powerful military. They were the most feared in the whole world. And the Jewish nation, with Hashem's miracles, defeated them. How did the Amalek even think of attacking them? So it was chutzpah, which means they were so driven to deny godliness in the world that they did things that was beyond logic. What does that mean? It means just like in Kedusha, we learned in the Mamar, there's a level that's deeper than logic, higher than logic. In Klippa, there's also a Klippa that's beyond logic. It comes from a place that it's such a deep drive to destroy and to deny godliness that it's irrational. And therefore, the only way to destroy that is also, when it comes from Kedusha, from a level that's also beyond any limit. And that's more Moshe Rabbeinu. Remember we learned in the Mamar, right before this one, about the Alter Rebbe, that he said, it's not Gan Eden that I want, not Olam Haba that I want, it's not these all spiritual levels that I want. Hashem, I want your essence. Amalek says the same thing, but the opposite. It's not that I'm interested in this pleasure, in that pleasure, or the other pleasure. My main goal is to deny the essence of Hashem to be revealed in the world. That's Amalek. So basically, Amalek is the other end of the spectrum of Moshe Rabbeinu, the other end of the spectrum. So only Moshe Rabbeinu, who is above and beyond all limitations in Kedusha, can fight Amalek, which is above and beyond all limitations in Klippa. It's an unconditional kind of Klippa. No reason, no logic. The hate that can't even be explained. It just comes from a place which is unconditional sort of hate or denial of Hashem. So you need the opposite, something in Kedusha that's strong enough to counteract that. And that's Moshe Rabbeinu. So when a person is connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, they also have the power to do that. So this is associated with what we learned in the Mamar, that Moshe Rabbeinu provides us with Amunah. What's Amunah? Amunah is also belief in Hashem that's beyond logic. That comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's why he's called the faithful shepherd, the one who shepherds us with faith. So this explains why we find that in reference to Purim, the simcha is an unlimited simcha. Where is there supposed to be more simcha? On Purim or in Yom Tov? The answer is Purim. Why? Because even though Yom Tov, it's a mitzvah in the Torah to be b'simcha, but it has to be a limited simcha. In fact, it says that the Bezdin would send messengers to different communities to make sure that when people gather and they're rejoicing and they're drinking wine, which we do on Yom Tov, it should be in a limited way, so things shouldn't get out of hand. What's the halacha when it comes to Purim, at least for the men? You're supposed to drink Adar lo yada, to the point. Thank you. All the classes of the Nishmas Yishayahu ben Avram Nissen, whose yahrzeit is today, comes to the point where you're supposed to drink that you don't know the difference between saying "Blessed be Mordechai" and "Cursed be Haman," and you might even say the reverse, which means you don't know what you're talking about. You might end up saying "Blessed be Haman" or the opposite. So, first of all, what does that mean? What kind of simcha is that? When a person's happy, he's supposed to forget who he's supposed to bless and who's supposed to be rejected. We're supposed to reject Haman and love Mordechai. So what does it mean? We should be both drunk that you don't know which is which? That doesn't make any sense.
Do people actually do that?
What?
Do people actually do that?
Drink?
And go hard and hard.
Yeah. Be careful.
But then wouldn't that lead you to doubt which one is which?
Right, that's the question. That means you're doubting which is which, is the opposite. So the answer is chas v'shalom. No matter how much a person drinks, they should never forget that I have to bless and want all the godly things and have to reject all the things that are negative. That's what we mean. So what does it mean? Adar lo yada. Here's the words, by the way, on the sheet here. It's number 15. Person should drink on Purim to the point he doesn't know the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. The answer is, it means that my acceptance of godliness and my rejection of klipa reaches a point that it's beyond logic. In other words, it's an unlimited rejection, an unlimited love and acceptance of Hashem. And that is the kind of joy that we're supposed to experience on Purim, beyond all limitations. Naturally, that in a way, chas v'shalom, the person becomes destructive or does anything that's out of line of Kedusha, but it means that it's an unlimited joy, an unlimited acceptance of Hashem, an unlimited rejection of Haman and everything he represents. Why? Because this is the time to fight Amalek. And Amalek is this unlimited force of klipa, unconditional denial of Hashem. So we have to arouse the opposite, the simcha and the connection to Hashem, which is above and beyond logic. There's more things about Purim, which also show that it's unlimited, but I just wanted to say one word, just share something a little bit more personal today. Today is Zayin Adar. Anyone know what Zayin Adar is? What'd you say? The yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu? Yahrzeit and birthday. He was born on the 7th of Adar and he passed on the 7th of Adar. Is this related to Purim in any way?
Yes.
How?
They threw the dice.
Right. The Haman did the drawing of lots. And he thought, oh, this is a perfect time because Moshe died on this day, but he didn't know that Moshe was born on this day. And that's basically what happened. That because it says in the merit of Moshe's birth, this miracle occurred. So actually this day is very much connected to the miracle of Purim and the Simcha, the whole Yom Tov. What?
Last year he said that it's actually was because of his yahrzeit. They had this power.
Maybe somebody said it, but I don't think it was me. But I'm saying on a personal level, a number of years ago, 1967, Rabbi Chadiko, the Rebbe's secretary, called in a group of students. I was one of them. And he asked us if we're ready to go to Australia on Shlichus. And he said to us that if you are ready, the Rebbe wants to make a yeshiva there, and you're ready to go. If you're ready, then let us know that, number one, that you want to go. Number two, that your parents agreed that you can go. And number 3, to see a doctor, and the doctor will tell you that medically it's okay for you to make this trip. And let us know. And somebody asked him, is this coming from the Rebbe himself or? Well, first of all, he's the Rebbe's private secretary. So when he calls you in, it usually means that. But anyway, he said, listen, I can just tell you what I just told you, that you have to say that you want to go, and you have to let me know that your parents want you to go. Obviously, once you hear that the Rebbe says, then everybody says yes, automatically. The Rebbe wanted it to come from us. So that was this night. It was the night of Thursday, just like this year. Friday was Zayin Adar. It was Thursday night. I was petrified to tell my mother about Australia because a Bachra is excited going to Australia. Why not? But I can't describe to you, in those days, going to Australia would be like, let's say, imagine in 10, 20 years from now, they're going to have trips to the moon. And your son comes home and says, Ma, I'm going on shlichus to the moon. Maybe then it'll be different. But if you tell to somebody now, it was like going to the end of the world. And today it's very different. Very, very different. Then there was no communication. There was no WhatsApp. There was no, even a phone call. I made one phone call in 2 years because a phone call costed, I think, $3 a minute or something. $3 was much more in those days. And my sister got married. I called her on the day of a wedding, and that was it. Everything else was just letters, writing letters back and forth. So this is the day that we went, and the Rebbe was very, very involved, personally involved, in spoke sichas and sent us letters and sent us matzah and many different things. So here's just, I'm going to pass it around if you want to see a picture of what we looked like in those days. It's how many years ago? 54 years ago. This is when we landed in Melbourne.
Who are you?
Who am I? Okay, try to figure out. That's your challenge.
This one.
No.
Oh, this is tough.
One of them is Rabbi Kaplan, who was the one who established the community in Tzfas.
Oh, wow.
One is Rabbi Marazov, who lives here in Crown Heights. One is Rabbi Lipsker, who lives in, yeah. It's a cousin of his. Cousin.
This is you.
No,
Are you just not on the photograph?
I'm there. I'm the second one from the other side.
Where's your beard?
Oh my God.
It's so white you can't even see it.
How old are you here?
18.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So that must have been a lot to be away for 2 years, though.
Yeah.
Where in?
Melbourne. We went from here, the trip was from here to San Francisco to Honolulu, Honolulu to Fiji Islands, Fiji Islands to Sydney,
Wow,
Sydney to Melbourne.
really lived it up.
Did you enjoy each place a little bit?
No, we were just there for a short time,
And
just.
did you discover Australia a little bit, like the wildlife and stuff?
We went to camp, so we went out
Wait,
into
did
the
you
bush,
go to
as
the
they
left
call
or
it over
right?
there. I never had the chance to see a kangaroo though.
Oh,
When we went there, I thought we'd find kangaroos on the street corner selling newspapers, but it wasn't there. Okay, a good Shabbos, everybody.
Where's Shabbos this week? In Yerushalayim?
yes,
Amen.
but also in the dorm.
The dome we transported to Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
Okay.